English Daily, the podcast.
Your English journey starts now. Hello, and welcome back to English Daily Podcast. I'm Anna, and I'm so thrilled to be here with you today for another episode where we make English learning easy, engaging, and genuinely useful for your everyday life.
Hey everyone, I'm Jack, and I am absolutely delighted that you chose to spend this time with us. Whether you're driving, walking, or just relaxing at home, thank you for letting us be part of your day. Today is going to be something special, and I really mean that.
Today, we're diving into a topic that I personally find incredibly meaningful, and I think you will too. We're talking about how to talk about your memories from 2025, specifically focusing on personal growth and life lessons. This is where language becomes truly powerful because we're not just learning grammar, we're expressing our hearts.
Exactly, Anna. One of the beautiful things about language is that it allows us to process our experiences, to make sense of where we've been and where we're going. And today, we're going to give you the tools to do exactly that. In English, we're going to explore the perfect tenses, but in a way that feels natural and meaningful, not abstract or boring.
Absolutely. And for those of you who have been following our series, you know that we always try to build on what we've learned before. This episode connects beautifully with our previous discussions about expressing emotions and sharing experiences. So if you're a returning listener, you'll notice some familiar patterns. And if you're new, don't worry. We're going to make everything crystal clear.
Now, before we dive in, I want to set the stage for today's conversation. Our strategic hook, as we like to call it, is How 2025 Changed Me. This is such a powerful prompt, and I genuinely believe that everyone has a story to tell about how the past year has shaped them. Whether it was a big transformation or small shifts, those experiences matter, and we're going to learn how to articulate them beautifully in English.
And you know what, Jack? I think this is one of those topics that really helps people grow. When we learn to tell our stories, we not only improve our language skills, but we also gain clarity about our own journeys. So let's make this a really rich conversation with lots of vocabulary, lots of practice opportunities, and lots of heart.
I'm so ready for this, Anna. Let's do it. Okay, let's start with the first subtopic, which is about setting the scene and introducing the concept of reflecting on the past year. This is where we lay the groundwork for everything else. So, Anna, let's start with the big picture. How would you describe your overall experience of 2025? And remember, we're practicing our past tense here, so this is the perfect opportunity to use what we've learned.
That's a great question, Jack. Honestly, 2025 was a year of unexpected twists and turns for me. At the beginning of the year, I had all these plans and expectations, but life had other ideas. I think one of the most important things I learned was how to be flexible, how to adapt when things don't go according to plan. Have you had a similar experience?
Absolutely. I think 2025 taught me patience more than anything else. There were moments when I felt frustrated, when things weren't moving as quickly as I wanted them to. But looking back now, I can see that those delays were actually gifts in disguise. They gave me time to think, to reassess, and to come back stronger. It's like that saying, everything happens for a reason, you know?
I love that perspective. And you just used a really common expression there. Everything happens for a reason. That's such a natural way to express acceptance of past events. For our listeners, this is a great phrase to add to their repertoire. It shows philosophical maturity and a positive outlook.
Thanks, Anna. Now let me ask you this. What was the single most memorable moment of 2025 for you? And try to use some of those perfect tenses we talked about.
That's a tough question, Jack. There were so many moments. But if I had to choose one, I think it would be when I finally completed that marathon I had been training for. I had been preparing for months, and there were times when I wanted to give up. But I kept going, and when I crossed that finish line, I felt such an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. It was truly a defining moment for me.
Wow, Anna, that's incredible. I remember you talking about your training journey, and I have to say, I'm so proud of you. That takes real dedication. And you know what? That story is a perfect example of something we can all learn from, the power of perseverance. Now, for our listeners, let's break down some of the key vocabulary and grammar points from this exchange.
Great idea. First, let's talk about past tense versus present perfect. When we say 2025 was a year of unexpected twists, we're talking about a completed period of time. That's simple past. But when we say, I have learned so much this year, we're connecting the past to the present, which is present perfect. The key difference is whether we're focusing on the experience itself or its relevance to now.
Exactly. And another point is using time expressions correctly. Phrases like at the beginning of the year, in the middle of the year, and by the end of the year help us organize our memories chronologically. These are super useful for structuring your stories.
Don't forget about looking back and reflecting on. These phrases are perfect for introducing a memory or a reflection. For example, looking back, I can see how much I've grown. Or reflecting on 2025, I realize.
Practice makes perfect, everyone. Try using these phrases in your own sentences about your year. Now, let's move on to our next subtopic, which is all about career and professional growth. This is something that many of our listeners can probably relate to.
So, Jack, let's talk about work. How is 2025 for you professionally? Did you take on any new challenges, learn any new skills?
Professional growth is such an important aspect of our lives, and 2025 was definitely a year of significant development for me. I think the biggest change was that I finally decided to switch careers. I had been working in marketing for almost 10 years, but I felt stuck, like I wasn't growing anymore. So I took the plunge and enrolled in a coding boot camp.
Wait, really? I didn't know that. That's such a bold move, Jack. What motivated you to make such a big change?
It was scary, honestly. There were moments when I questioned my decision, but I had been feeling unfulfilled for a while, and I realized that staying in my comfort zone was holding me back. I remember telling myself that I would regret not trying more than I would regret failing, so I went for it.
That's really inspiring. And for our listeners, this is a great example of how to talk about career transitions. You just used some excellent phrases like, I felt stuck, I wasn't growing anymore, and taking the plunge. These are all natural, native sounding expressions.
Thanks. And I think it's important to acknowledge the difficult parts too. Not everything was smooth sailing. There were times when I felt overwhelmed, when the learning curve felt impossibly steep. But I pushed through, and now I can look back and say it was worth every moment of struggle.
So, what would you say was the biggest professional lesson you learned in 2025?
That's a great question. I think the biggest lesson was that it's never too late to learn something new. Society often makes us feel like we have to have everything figured out by a certain age, but that's simply not true. I have classmates who are changing careers at 40, 50, even 60. Age is just a number when it comes to personal growth.
Absolutely, Jack. And I think that's such an important message for our listeners. No matter where you are in your career journey, there's always room to grow, to learn, to evolve. Now let's talk about some vocabulary. What are some key phrases for discussing professional growth?
Great question. Let's start with to take on a new challenge, which means to accept a difficult new task. To step out of my comfort zone is another important one. To feel unfulfilled describes when your job or life doesn't satisfy you emotionally. To switch careers means to change to a different profession. To enroll in a program is when you sign up for a course or training. And to push through means to continue despite difficulties.
Don't forget about to gain experience, to develop skills, to take on more responsibilities, to get promoted, and to network. These are all essential career-related verbs. And for describing emotions about work, we have to feel burnt out, to feel valued, to feel motivated, and to feel stagnant.
All of these phrases are incredibly useful for job interviews, networking events, or even just casual conversations about work. Practice using them and you'll sound like a native speaker in no time. Now let's shift gears and talk about something more personal, relationships and connections.
You know, Jack, while career growth is important, I think personal relationships are truly the heart of our existence. 2025 was a year where I really focused on deepening my connections with family and friends. How about you?
That's so true, Anna. Relationships require effort, and 2025 taught me the value of intentional relationships. I made a conscious effort to spend more quality time with the people who matter most to me. I stopped taking those relationships for granted.
I love that you said intentional relationships. That's such a mature way to look at it. We often drift through life, assuming our loved ones will always be there, but the truth is, relationships need nurturing. Did you do anything specific to strengthen those bonds?
Yes, I did. I started having weekly video calls with my parents, who live in a different city. Before, I would only call them occasionally, and those calls were often rushed. But I made a commitment to set aside 1 hour every week just to talk, to really listen, to ask about their day and their feelings. It made such a difference.
That's beautiful, Jack. I think a lot of people can relate to that, especially those of us who live far away from family. The pandemic taught us the importance of connection, but it's easy to fall back into old habits. What other relationship moments stand out from 2025?
Another big moment was reconnecting with an old friend from college. We had lost touch over the years, but we reconnected at a reunion. It was like no time had passed at all. We spent hours talking about our lives, our dreams, our challenges. It reminded me that some friendships truly stand the test of time.
That sounds so lovely. Rekindled friendships are such a gift. You know, one of my favorite memories from 2025 was when my sister and I went on a road trip together. We had not had quality time, just the two of us, in years, but we spent a whole week traveling and talking. It brought us closer than ever.
That's amazing. What did you learn about each other on that trip?
So much. We realized that despite our differences, we share the same core values. We talked about everything, from childhood memories to our fears about the future. It was incredibly healing, actually. We had some unresolved issues from our past, and that trip gave us the space to address them openly and honestly.
That's so important, Anna. Conflict resolution is such a crucial skill in any relationship, and it's something that requires vulnerability and courage. Now, for our listeners, let's talk about some key vocabulary for discussing relationships.
Let's start with to deepen a connection, which means to make a relationship more meaningful. To nurture a relationship is about taking care of it over time. To drift apart describes when people slowly lose touch. To rekindle a friendship means to bring it back to life. To set aside time is to deliberately make time for someone or something. To open up is to share your thoughts and feelings honestly.
And for describing different types of relationships, we have a support system, a close bond, a lifelong friend, a mentor, and an accountability partner. All of these are great additions to your vocabulary. Now, let's move on to something equally important: health and self-care. Let's switch gears and talk about something that affects every aspect of our lives: our health. 2025 was a year when I really had to confront my own mortality, if you know what I mean. I went through a health scare that forced me to reassess my priorities.
Oh, Jack, I didn't know that. Are you okay now?
Yes, I'm fine now, thank you for asking. But it was a wake-up call, definitely. I was working too hard, sleeping too little, eating poorly. I was burning the candle at both ends, as they say. And then my body basically said, enough.
That's such a common story, unfortunately. So many of us push ourselves to the limit, ignoring the warning signs until something forces us to stop. What was the turning point for you?
The turning point was when I couldn't even climb a flight of stairs without feeling out of breath. I was only in my 30s, but I felt like an old man. That's when I knew I had to make a change. I started working with a personal trainer, changed my diet completely, and most importantly, I started prioritizing sleep and relaxation.
Oh, that's incredible, Jack. It takes real courage to make such dramatic changes. And I think it's so important what you said about prioritizing sleep and relaxation. We often treat rest as something optional, but it's actually essential for our well-being. What other self-care practices did you adopt?
I started meditating every morning for at least 10 minutes. At first, I thought it was a bit woo-woo, to be honest, but I was desperate, so I tried it. And surprisingly, it really helped me manage my stress levels. I also started journaling, which has been incredibly therapeutic. Writing down my thoughts and feelings has helped me process a lot of emotional baggage.
I love that you mentioned journaling. It's such a powerful tool for self-reflection. And for our listeners, this is a great opportunity to learn vocabulary related to health and well-being. Let's break down some key phrases.
Absolutely. Let's start with to burn the candle at both ends, which means to overwork yourself. A wake-up call is an event that makes you realize you need to change something. To reassess priorities means to think about what's most important to you. To take something for granted is to not appreciate something until it's almost gone. To hit rock bottom is to reach the lowest point, after which you can only go up.
For self-care, specifically, we have to practice mindfulness, to engage in physical activity, to maintain a balanced diet, to get enough sleep, to set boundaries, and to say no. All of these are essential for preventing burnout and maintaining overall well-being.
And remember, health is not just about the body, it's about the mind and spirit, too. Mental health is just as important as physical health. Don't be afraid to seek help if you need it. There's no shame in talking to a therapist or counselor. Now, let's talk about something more joyful: travel and new experiences.
Okay, let's switch to a lighter topic, travel and new experiences. 2025 was the year I finally took that solo trip to Japan that I had been dreaming about for years. It was absolutely transformative.
Japan. That's amazing, Anna. I've always wanted to go there. What made you decide to go alone?
You know, Jack, I had been waiting for the right time or the right person to travel with for the longest time. But then I realized that if I kept waiting, I might never go. So I decided to just go for it solo. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made.
What was the most memorable part of your trip?
There are so many moments, but I think the most memorable was visiting the Fushimi Inari Shrine in Kyoto. Walking through those thousands of vermilion torii gates, I felt like I was in another world. It was so peaceful, so serene. I just stood there for the longest time, taking it all in.
That sounds absolutely magical. I can almost picture it. And I think this is such an important lesson. Traveling alone can be incredibly empowering. It forces you to step outside your comfort zone, to navigate unfamiliar situations, to rely on yourself.
Exactly. Every day in Japan, I had to figure things out. The language barrier, the public transportation, the cultural differences. But I did it, and it built my confidence in ways I never imagined. I learned that I am more capable than I ever imagined.
That's such an inspiring story, Anna. And for our listeners who might be hesitant about traveling alone, This is your sign. Now, let's talk about vocabulary for describing travel experiences.
Let's start with to take a solo trip, which means to travel alone. To go for it is to decide to do something despite fear or uncertainty. To step outside your comfort zone means to do something that challenges you. To navigate means to find your way through something unfamiliar. To immerse yourself in a culture means to fully experience and participate in it.
For describing places and experiences, we have breathtaking, serene, vibrant, exotic, bustling, and picturesque. These adjectives will make your travel stories come alive. Also, don't forget phrases like to try local cuisine, to get lost in a city, to make memories, and to broaden your horizons.
Travel is such a powerful teacher. It opens our eyes to new possibilities, new ways of thinking, new perspectives. Even if you can't travel physically right now, you can still explore through books, movies, and conversations. Now, let's move to our final subtopic, which is about the lessons learned and wisdom gained.
So here we are, Anna, at our final subtopic. We've talked about career, relationships, health, and travel. Now let's bring it all together and discuss the overarching lessons we learned in 2025. What wisdom would you share?
That's a profound question, Jack. If I had to distill everything into one lesson, it would be this. Life is short, and we can't control everything. The only thing we can control is our response to what happens to us. This year taught me the power of acceptance, of letting go of things I can't change and focusing on what I can.
That's incredibly wise, Anna. I think my biggest lesson was similar. I learned that failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of the journey. I used to be so afraid of failing that I wouldn't even try new things. But 2025 changed that. I failed so many times, and each failure taught me something valuable.
That's such an important mindset shift, and I think it's something many people struggle with. We live in a culture that glorifies success and stigmatizes failure, but the truth is, every successful person has a long history of failures behind them. How did you change your relationship with failure?
I started reframing failure as feedback. Instead of seeing it as a reflection of my worth, I started seeing it as information. If something didn't work out, what can I learn from it? What can I do differently next time? This mental shift was transformative for me.
That's such a healthy approach. And I think another lesson for me was learning to be present. I spent so much time dwelling on the past or worrying about the future that I wasn't actually living in the moment. 2025 taught me to appreciate the here and now, to find joy in the small things.
Mindfulness in action. And you know what, Anna? I think our listeners need to hear this too. English learning is a journey, not a destination. There will be mistakes, there will be frustrations, but those are all part of the process. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small.
Absolutely. Every new word you learn, every sentence you form correctly, every conversation you have, all of that is progress. Don't compare yourself to others. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday. Now, let's talk about some philosophical vocabulary for discussing life lessons.
Great idea. Let's start with to gain wisdom, which means to acquire deep understanding. To learn a lesson is to learn something important from an experience. To grow as a person means to develop and improve. To embrace change is to accept and welcome new circumstances. To let go is to stop holding on to something, whether it's resentment, fear, or the past.
And for describing personal development, we have self-awareness, emotional intelligence, resilience, gratitude, and compassion. These are all qualities that contribute to a meaningful life. And for discussing the passage of time, we have to look back, to move forward, to live in the present, to plan for the future, and to make the most of every day.
These are all powerful concepts, and learning to express them in English will not only improve your language skills, but also help you reflect on your own life. Now, let's transition to our vocabulary breakdown section, where we'll go over all the key phrases from today's episode.
Now it's time for our vocabulary breakdown. Let's review all the key phrases we used throughout today's conversation. I'll read each one, and Jack, please provide a clear explanation and an example sentence.
Sounds great, Anna. Let's do this.
First phrase, everything happens for a reason. This is used to express acceptance of past events, suggesting that there is a purpose behind everything.
Exactly. Example. I didn't get that job I applied for, but looking back, everything happens for a reason. It led me to a better opportunity.
Next, to take the plunge. This means to finally do something you have been thinking about doing, usually something risky or daunting.
Example. After years of thinking about learning to code, I finally took the plunge and enrolled in a boot camp.
Next, to feel stuck. This describes a state where you feel trapped, unable to progress or move forward in life or work.
Example. I felt stuck in my career for years until I decided to make a change.
Continuing, to step out of my comfort zone. This means to do something that is challenging or unfamiliar, beyond your usual boundaries.
Example. Moving to a new country forced me to step out of my comfort zone and grow as a person.
To drift apart. This describes when two people gradually lose their close relationship over time.
Back in high school, I drifted apart from a good friend, but we reconnected later.
To rekindle a friendship. This means to revive or renew a friendship that had become distant.
Going to our high school reunion helped us rekindle old friendships.
To burn the candle at both ends. This means to overwork yourself by doing too many things, often at the expense of your health.
I was burning the candle at both ends, working 2 jobs and not getting enough sleep.
A wake-up call. This is an event or experience that makes you realize you need to make a change.
My health scare was a wake-up call that made me reassess my lifestyle.
To reassess priorities. This means to think again about what is most important to you.
After becoming a parent, I had to reassess my priorities and focus on what truly matters.
To go for it. This is an informal expression meaning to decide to do something, often with enthusiasm and despite fear.
I was nervous about starting my own business, but I decided to go for it.
To navigate. This means to find your way through a difficult situation or unfamiliar environment.
Navigating a new city alone can be challenging, but it's also incredibly rewarding.
To gain wisdom. This means to acquire deep understanding and knowledge about life.
Each decade of life brings new opportunities to gain wisdom.
To learn a lesson. This means to understand something important from an experience, often a negative one.
I learned a valuable lesson about trust after being betrayed by a friend.
To grow as a person. This means to develop and improve your character, skills, or perspective over time.
Moving abroad helped me grow as a person in ways I never expected.
To embrace change. This means to accept and welcome new circumstances, even when they are uncomfortable.
Instead of resisting change, I've learned to embrace it as an opportunity for growth.
To let go. This means to stop holding on to something, such as resentment, past mistakes, or fear.
It took me years to let go of the anger I felt toward my father.
To look back. This means to think about or examine your past.
Looking back on my 20s, I realized I was too hard on myself.
To make the most of every day. This means to use each day productively and positively.
After surviving a serious illness, I decided to make the most of every day.
Excellent work, everyone. Those are 20 key phrases that will greatly enhance your ability to talk about memories, personal growth, and life lessons. Now let's move on to reflection questions.
Now it's time for our reflection questions. These are questions for you to think about and maybe even write about in your journal. They will help you practice the vocabulary and grammar we covered today. I'll read each question, and Anna will add some tips on how to approach answering them.
Sounds great, Jack. Remember, there are no right or wrong answers here. These are personal reflections, so be honest and authentic in your responses.
Question 1. What was the biggest challenge you faced in 2025, and how did it help you grow?
When answering this, try to use both past tense and present perfect. For example, the biggest challenge I faced was, and since then I have learned.
Question 2. Who is someone you reconnected with in 2025, and what did that relationship teach you?
Use vocabulary like to rekindle, to drift apart, and to deepen a connection. Focus on the emotions you experienced during the reconnection.
Question 3. What is one habit or behavior you changed in 2025 for the better?
Use phrases like I started to, I gave up, I made a commitment to, and I realized the importance of.
Question 4. What was the most beautiful place you visited or experience you had in 2025?
Use descriptive adjectives like breathtaking, serene, magical, and unforgettable. Try to paint a picture with your words.
Question 5. What is a mistake you made in 2025, and what did you learn from it?
Use expressions like I should have, if I could go back, and looking back, I realize. Remember, mistakes are learning opportunities.
Question 6. What is something you used to take for granted that you now appreciate more?
Use the phrase to take for granted and think about both tangible things like health and intangible things like time with loved ones.
Question 7. How have your priorities changed from the beginning of 2025 to now?
Use comparative structures like I used to, but now, and I've come to realize that.
Question 8. What advice would you give to your past self at the beginning of 2025?
Try using conditional structures like I would tell myself to, and if I could go back, I would.
Question 9. What are you most proud of achieving in 2025?
Use phrases like I managed to, I was able to, and I'm proud to say that. Celebrate your accomplishments no matter how small.
Question 10. What is your word or theme for 2026, and why?
Think about what you want to focus on in the coming year. Use this as an opportunity to set intentions and practice expressing your hopes and dreams in English.
Those are 10 questions to really get you thinking and practicing. I highly recommend writing down your answers, even if it's just for yourself. The act of writing will help solidify the vocabulary and grammar in your memory.
Well, everyone, we have reached the end of another episode. I hope you found today's conversation as meaningful and inspiring as I did. We covered so much ground, from career growth to relationships, from health to travel, and from mistakes to wisdom.
Absolutely, Anna. And I want to thank each and every one of you for listening. Your time is valuable, and we don't take it for granted. We hope that today's episode gave you not only language tools, but also some food for thought about your own journey.
Remember, English learning is a journey, not a destination. Every step you take, every word you learn, every conversation you have, all of that adds up. Be patient with yourself, celebrate your progress, and never stop growing.
And please don't forget to practice. Use those reflection questions we provided. Write in a journal. Talk to yourself in English. The more you use the language, the more natural it will become.
We'll be back next week with more English learning goodness. In the meantime, keep listening, keep learning, and keep growing. You've got this.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Jack.
And I'm Anna. Until next time, take care and keep practicing.
Bye, everyone. We'll see you next time on English Daily Podcast.
Thanks for listening to English Daily Podcast. See you next time. Your learning journey doesn't stop here. Keep improving your English. Click the next video or explore more episodes we've picked just for you. See you in the next lesson.